Hey everyone, I'm Meinke from mlive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. You don't know this, but this is actually our fifth take because neither of us can stop laughing. I have no idea what's in the water today, or
nothing.
We just can't stop laughing. It was a busy day at Allen Park. The Lions released their first depth chart of the offseason. They got the first game on Saturday, Justin, and these things mean nothing, as they'll tell you in big bold letters at the top of the depth chart. But it's still interesting to note what jumped out to you about what we saw on the depth chart.
The one that jumped out to me right away was LaAdrian Waddle ahead of Corey Hilliard at the right tackle job. We've been watching that competition closely. We believe, or we have believed for a long time, that Hilliard was a favorite. Or I'm sorry, that Waddle was a favorite. Put a poll up on our website some point early in the offseason. 98% of you picked Waddle to win that job, but it's a lot closer in that they have been splitting reps every day, rotating in that starting position. They both had good days. They both have had bad days, which we've noted. But on these depth charts that tend to respect veterans more, we look at all the rookies that are buried toward the bottom. I would have not been surprised at all if Hilliard was at top, but Waddle is, and I think that says what the team kind of expects of him this year. At least it's an early sign.
Yeah, I mean, Waddle started seven of the final 8 games of last year, and so I think he's got some some credibility. I think there it is interesting, and I expect him to start against the Browns, but certainly that battle is very close and far from decided. On defense, I was not at all surprised to see Ashley Palmer still listed at the first team, even though we all expect Kyle Van Noy at some point to become the starter, three-down linebacker at the strong side spot. He was drafted in the second round, Van Noy was, and he's been hailed as this 3-down guy, and he's a great fit for the pass rushing they want to implement at that position, and that's why they took him so high. And yet we've seen Ashley Palmer with the first team almost throughout all of training camp so far. And in fact, we've seen very few first team reps from Van Noy. And so I think that's kind of interesting. And to me, that depth chart definitely reflects where Van Noy is at this place in that battle, which is not even close to Ashley Palmer.
Yeah, Van Noy missed a little bit of time. He had a thumb injury very early in camp, first day, first couple plays. He has started to finally squeak in. He did a little bit of first team work yesterday, a little bit today. I think, assuming he's healthy, cleared medically, I think he's going to be one of those players that plays more than the average guy in the first preseason game. He might even get a little touch with the first team, but probably extended look in the second and third quarter as they try to make sure he's completely immersed in this defensive scheme.
Yeah, he was asked after practice today, Van Noy was, just about his reps and his limited reps and what his thoughts were. He basically said, it's not my decision, it's a coach's decision, it's a front office decision, and this is my place right now. I think in time we do expect Van Noy to be the guy. It's just happening slower than what we would have expected, I think, coming out of the draft. On the offensive side of the ball, I was surprised to see Meinke as the number 3 tailback. And again, these things mean nothing. But it's interesting to me that he's ahead of Theo Riddick, and of course behind Reggie Bush and Joique Bell, who are firmly number 1 and number 2. But it was interesting that Theo Riddick has been just hailed all offseason for his work, for his improvements, especially in the passing game. He's supposed to be this great fit for the offense. He was the number 3 last year, and now Meinke, who was active for only 2 games last year, is ahead of him on the depth chart. It means nothing, but it's interesting to me, and you've noted too throughout camp how many first-team reps LaShore is getting. So this isn't a total misfire. I mean, there is something going on here. We're just trying to figure out what it is and what LaShore's role could be this season.
It's not like the regular season. They don't have a limited number of guys they can keep active, so as a pure running back, LaShore probably is better than Riddick. He can be ahead of him on the depth chart, but if this was a game day and only 46 guys were active, I mean, Theo Riddick's going to be your guy because he contributes so much on special teams. He is that weapon in the passing game. I put it out there today, a personal hypothesis, but I think LaShore's getting a lot of work with the first team. I think the Lions might be showcasing him. I expect him to get a lot of carries against the Browns, and his value here is his insurance policy to Joique Bell. But if they could trade him, if a team steps forward and shows interest, and they could trade him for a depth at another position, a corner, a cornerback, that's something the team should strongly consider. One more offensive position I find interesting is the fullback situation. Montel Owens talked to him yesterday. He doesn't view himself as a traditional fullback. He sees himself as a hybrid guy that's more about what he does on special teams. He's listed at the top of the chart ahead of Jed Collins. They've kind of split reps throughout camps, but Montellen's not going to be that traditional bring the hammer blocking guy that Collins will be. So it'll be interesting still to see how that battle shakes out through the course of training camp and the preseason.
You alluded to the lack of depth at cornerback, and I just thought it was interesting that Jonte Green's ahead of Chris Greenwood, fighting for a reserve spot. Jonte Green's listed ahead of him, and Cassius Vaughn is listed ahead of both of them. He was a veteran free agent signing, kind of went under the radar a little bit. He's not a big name or anything, but he's played pretty well. The guys have spoken pretty highly of him. Brings kind of that Rashean Mathis kind of veteran savvy to the table. Just not as good as Mathis, but he's got something to give the younger players. And the other day when Darius Slay left with an injury, it was Cassius Vaughn who went out first to rep with the first team unit. Opposite Rashean Mathis. So I think he could be in a position now. It's way early in camp, but he could be positioning himself to play his way onto this roster ahead of maybe a young guy like a Chris Greenwood or a Jonte Green.
I think Green's clearly ahead of Greenwood. Green's had a very good camp. May have even been better than Vaughn at this stage, but they've been playing different levels of competition, so it's tough to kind of judge entirely. But Jonte Green is heading toward a roster spot, and I think he can be a contributor on this team. It's a long way away, and a lot of that stuff is only cleared. The path is only cleared when there's injuries. But if called upon, I think Jonte Green could be, a suitable fit for the Lions this year.
The last note I wanted to make off the depth chart was at place kicker, the Lions have listed David Akers as the starter. No, they really did. It was just a typo, an innocent typo, but we thought we got a good kick out of that. It's probably a surprise to David Akers, I would imagine. But no, Nate Freese though is listed as the starter. He's the lone rookie with a first unit on the first depth chart. I thought that was interesting because to me, Tavecchio has clearly outplayed Nate Freese through training camp. He's hit 21 in a row to this point. Hit 5 more today, 5 for 5. If you're looking at strictly results driven, which is what Jim Caldwell said, Tavecchio to me has looked better. Obviously, Nate Freese is their long-term project though. They drafted him. He was 20 for 20 at Boston College last year. They have a lot invested in this guy. They want that to pan out. But at the end of the day, if they're talking about who's been the best guy in camp, to me it's been Tavecchio, and to me it was a mild surprise to see Tavecchio on the second line.
Yeah, Freese has taken every single first team rep to this point. I just think it might have been one of those things where we haven't changed it yet, so why change it here? Why create drama unnecessarily if we haven't done it in practice? So
that's a good point.
If it continues the way it does and Freese continues to make mistakes, miss field goals, and Tavecchio continues his stretch, I mean, it's going to flip at some point, but I think it'll just happen on a random Wednesday in practice as opposed to on an unofficial depth chart leading up to the game.
If nothing changes, I would expect Nate Freese to start the game against the Browns, but look out for Tavecchio. Again, I think he's been the guy so far that's clearly won that position through the first week and a half of camp. That's what we got. We'll be back here on Wednesday, not here, but in Detroit. Lions have an open practice at Ford Field. Tickets are still available. You don't need to get them in advance. You can just show up. I think it's at 7:30. Come on down if you want to see the team. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We're MLive. Keep it right here.